For my 3-minute video, I decided to cover the evolution of vaccines and how they have contributed to vulnerable populations. The first ever record of vaccines or inoculation was in 1000 AD in ancient China. This timeline charts out many deadly communicable diseases that wiped out populations, causing the unnecessary death of millions of individuals due to improper prevention methods and sanitation. Every disease listed on this timeline could have been prevented by a vaccine. This testifies of how the world has been transformed by vaccines, particularly allowing vulnerable populations to live and avoid affliction by diseases that would certainly have taken their lives. A great example of this and particular vulnerability of vulnerable populations is COVID. The average individual should be able to fight COVID and get over it fairly easily, while vulnerable populations aren't able to fight it as well, whether that means that they have compromised health or a lower amount of white blood cells. This does not enable them to fight it as strongly as the average person would. On May 14, 1796, Edward Jenner performed the first ever vaccination experiment on an 8-year-old boy named James Phipps. Phipps was inoculated with an infected cowpox sore. Though he got sick for a few days, he then recovered and was completely healthy. In July of that same year, Jenner gave Phipps a fresh cowpox sore to challenge the previously given protection. Following this test of Phipps' immunity, Phipps stayed completely healthy. This proved that Jenner's theory of smaller controlled exposures to infectious agents could prevent diseases. Later in 1855, Massachusetts was the first state that passed a law mandating vaccinations for school children. This graph from 1980 to 2015 compares measles vaccines worldwide to measles cases worldwide. You'll see that as measles vaccines progressively increase, measles cases decrease. This is great evidence of the phenomenal effect vaccines can have on preventable diseases. But how does this help vulnerable populations? This saves individuals who are vulnerable because they are able to receive a vaccine that saves them from having to fight a disease they could not beat, or they are protected through something called herd immunity. Herd immunity lessens the likeliness that an unvaccinated individual comes in contact with a communicable disease because everyone around them is immune, so the disease is not likely to ever be around them.